The Maroon White Pod brought to you by CityLink. For bookings, timetables, updates and any other information, head to citylink.ie. You're welcome along to the Maroon White Pod. We're here this evening to look back on round 3 of the Senior and Intermediate Football Championships. The preliminary quarter-final draw was made 2, so we have 2 preliminary games taking place on Thursday evening and then 2 on Saturday. So the quarter-finalists for the Senior will be confirmed then. Those dates have been moved forward due to the Connacht Championship starting earlier this year. So if people are wondering why they're taking place this week, that's why. And I am joined by Salthill Knocknacarra coach James Mannion. James, before we get into the action, you're obviously with Salthill this year. Your first year, you're in the quarterfinal. First of all, on Salthill, how did that come about to get involved with them?
Yeah, I suppose I'd finished down in Kilmurray, down in Clare, and I was it was coming into the winter, and I was kind of saying, I'll just focus on the Leitir Mór under-20s because I was involved with them this year, and I had no real intention of being involved in a club team this year, and then Finian Hanley got in contact with me, and I couldn't say no to meeting him, and once I met him, I couldn't say no to getting involved. Because obviously, look, Salthill it's a big club. It's a really exciting kind of a project. With an awful lot of great players there as well, and when Finian was telling me the backroom team there of Army, Gary Cox, Norman Costello, and it was it was definitely too good an opportunity to turn down. So I'm enjoying it at the minute. Really good group of lads, good management group, and you're going to training 3 days a week. Looking forward to going, so that's a great sign.
Is it more special being involved within your own county, do you feel?
I definitely, I definitely think there is that little bit more personal importance to it. I mean, like growing up, I would have been going to Tuam Stadium with the old fella for 3 games on a Sunday, going in for an intermediate and 2 senior games into Tuam Stadium, and we might have gone to 5, 6 club games in a weekend. The Galway Championship always has a special kind of place in my heart. And obviously, I would have played with an awful lot of these lads in the Galway Championship. I would have coached an awful lot of them as well, so I know a lot of them. But like that being said, when you're going to other counties, like I've been blessed to coach in Sligo and Roscommon and Clare and at club level, and there's a great anonymity going out there because nobody really knows what's going on, so you can go and learn your trade, and if you win a county title like we did up in Sligo, it's fantastic. If things don't go well elsewhere, nobody really knows. So there's that bit of niceness to that as well. But no, I'll tell you, it's great to be back in Galway, and it's a real top quality kind of top quality championship. So it's really enjoyable to be a part of. Yeah.
It's just funny there when you mention it about going away. Is it from your coaching journey? Is it important then in one sense? So I know it's special to be back in your own county, but to nearly get away from your own county at the start of your coaching journey.
I think so, because I think you learn an awful lot about different styles. Like the style of the Sligo Championship is totally different to the style of Galway Championship. Same with the Roscommon Championship compared to Clare. It's you learn an awful lot of obviously the different styles of play and stuff like that. Different teams you come up against, different players and different attitudes. Different personalities. And the more kind of scenarios you put yourself in like that, the more you have when you come back to like Galway, that you're able to say, right, I dealt with a fella like that down in Clare, or we played a team up in Sligo that played very similar to this team, and this is how we dealt with it. So it's great from a learning point of view, to be able to go outside and learn. Like, to be honest, when I went up to Sligo, it was a real eye opener. Because there was probably Corofin won 5 in a row. and all of a sudden you're being chased. So you're in the position there of being the team that are being chased. When I went to Western Gales, you're in Roscommon, you're a team that, okay, we were in relegation the year previous when I went in, but you had unbelievable players like Cathal Craig, Finbar Craig, Sean McDermott, these real intercounty legends in Roscommon, playing a totally different style to what was there in Sligo. So I had to adapt myself to, the players that I had in Roscommon, but also the style of football, and also bring my own kind of stamp on things. But no, to answer your question, it's definitely helped me going outside the county and kind of learning my trade elsewhere, before coming back here and doing everything I can now with Salthill.
If we were to take it back to Salthill, obviously you had that chat with Finian. You went in, you decided to go in. You obviously had a great league campaign where you won the Division 2 league campaign. You won your first 3 games in the championship. But even just the season as a whole, the way it is, and I know we're going to hear this debate so much, is the split season working and everything, but like I'm sure there was challenges even when the lads were away that you've had throughout the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very long year for the club player, and it's an even longer year for the county player. So we were probably we didn't go back very early, because we knew it was a long year, and you have to give lads their bit of life as well and give them that balance. So when we got to a certain point in the league, we were able to give them a bit of time off, and say if you want to go on holidays here, and give them that break. We'd give them the odd session here and there when needed, but it is a long year, and you have to manage players as best you can to keep them fresh for the right part of the year, because it is a very long year. And when you come into championship, it's even a long championship, because you're every second week. So you're 6 weeks before you even come out of your group. If you're going further than that, it's a long road of high intensity. So you have to have a good plan in place, to kind of manage these lads, and then you have to have a plan in place for the county lads when they come back, because some lads will come back and they'll want a bit of time off, and you're going to have to give them time off. Other lads will come back and they won't want time off, and you're nearly forcing them to take time off.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to balance that with bring them back into your league group, your league panel, and integrating them there and getting them all playing the same style of football. So it's definitely a massive challenge for club management, but it's a massive challenge for players. And I'd really feel for those players that end up going back in November and December and doing a long 8-9 months before you're even halfway through your championship. And if you go long in your championship, you could be 10-11 months at it, and it's tough, because club football, the demands on it now from a player is huge, and the demands on the family is huge. So it takes an awful lot of juggling to get it right.
Just on the 4 lads that have obviously with Salthill and involved with Galway and had such an incredible year, all 4 of them. Daniel, Cahill, and obviously Tomo and John Maher there too, and Rob obviously is injured at the minute. But those players, what are they like to work with?
Oh, they're a dream. And that'll be the same with all the lads, to be honest. The attitude is top notch. The work rate is top notch, and obviously when you bring your county boys back into a panel, you see an increase in your standard and that. But I think to be fair to the lads we had during the league, they had operated at such a level that it wasn't a massive change when the county boys came in, that they were able to slot in and be a part of it. But no, definitely, you can see in the in those championship campaigns, the county lads really stand up. They're top class footballers. There's no point trying to say otherwise. But no, an absolute dream to work with. Great attitudes, really hard workers, and really positive around the place. So it's a dream to work with them.
If we're to look at your own group first, senior Football Championship Group 1 there. Obviously, the two results of the weekend: Salthill Knocknacarra 2-10, Caltra 2 points, and Ivan Leitir Mór 2-8, Mountbellew 2-7. On your own game, it was a big win, and probably important for you too to keep that unbeaten record going.
Yeah, and like we gave a few lads opportunities they hadn't had previously. We changed our starting 15, a few lads, and to be fair to them, they really put their hands up, so they were driving it on massively. But I think the scoreline can be a little bit deceiving in that the conditions in Kenny Park were atrocious, very similar to what they were in Pearse and in Tuam on Saturday. It was really tough, and I think in the first half, we probably managed the conditions a little bit better. Like we went in 5-1 up at half time, and when you have your nose ahead like that in really slippy conditions and windy conditions, it's and you can keep the scoreboard ticking. It's easy to keep the nose ahead then after that. But obviously, look, Carlos Strown will be very disappointed with their year to date. A poor league and not a great championship shown. The likes of Alan Morris picking up a cruciate injury is a huge loss to them. And I know Keane wasn't there last year, but Keane Darcy is a huge loss to them as well. Like, if you had those lads there, they're a totally different outfit. And like they're still a very experienced team, going into that relegation semi-final against Claregalway. If they get all the boys on the same hymn sheet, they can do anything there. So look, the three wins have been massive for us to get a bit of momentum. Because you need your momentum going into a quarter final against what's going to be a really tough kind of C2 or C3 team coming out of that.
Important to get the win, considering you pretty much have a layoff now of competitive games for a while.
Yeah, definitely, and look, it gives us an opportunity to work on things that we need to work on, get bodies right, and
can you work on much in that period?
Oh yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, you definitely can. And it might just be little tweaks here and there, but they can be huge things in the grand scheme of things. And even reinforcing things that we would have done in the league that may fall by the wayside when you're focused on different things in championship. The ability to get those couple of weeks to refocus on those can be massive come a quarter final, because like when you're going into this quarter final now, like it's all top teams. The 16 team championship in Galway is a godsend, because you've 16 top quality teams now. You're not going to get an easy quarter final, so you need to be sharp and ready going into a quarter final if you're going to have any kind of aspirations to go anywhere else.
And just on that, like you mentioned, Caltra, it's obviously been difficult. The players they've lost, but I suppose the most disappointing thing when you look back on their last two games is they've scored a combined score of 1-3.
Yeah, so like I suppose against Mountbellew they got 1-3. Against us they got 2 points. But against Mountbellew, they did cut them open a few times, and I think they had 4 goal chances in the first half alone. They put a couple of those away, and the confidence comes. They kick a couple of points. It's a totally different day. Like they do have the ability. They do have the ability to do a bit of damage. The likes there of Liam Judge in full forward is a big unit. He's a good mover. He's a good target man. And against Mountbellew, he was very effective. And you had lads feeding off him nicely. If Lawless is on his game in the midfield, Stephen Lawless, you have a great platform to play from. And like Johnny McGrath, he's playing at 6. You have a real driving force there. Like we were probably lucky in that he went in full back on Tomo on Saturday, because it probably took a little bit of their attacking threat away, a little bit of their drive from the half back line away. But like if they get everybody on the same hymn sheet, like I said, they can do stuff, because they have a few good players there. They have an awful lot of experienced senior players. If they get their few bodies back, I know Derek Kane was missing the last day, and Kevin Nally was missing the last day. If they were to be fit, now I don't know what their injuries are or whatever it is, but if they were to be fit, they're two massive additions to it as well.
I presume everyone's asking you this question when it comes to Salthill about Rob's fitness.
I don't talk to Rob at all. I wouldn't know.
You're well media trained. That's what they have you in there already. But on the other game, Leitir Mór and Mountbellew, like this, obviously you probably didn't get to see it, but I'm sure you got to watch back the highlights. And this was just, it was a crazy game. The sending offs are already going to have such an effect on the preliminary quarterfinals. And I'm sure there's going to be a couple of appeals going in this week, maybe to the last minute to try and get some of these players back on the pitch. But there's such drama in this game.
Yeah, and it's I was expecting this game to be tight. I didn't expect it to have as many fireworks as it did. But like I've been, to be honest, when we were getting ready for Leitir Mór, I was so impressed by what I was seeing of them. Like in their 9 league games, albeit Division 3, they'd scored 29 goals and 121 points. Like averaging a massive amount in that, and obviously getting more to the final against Kilcar. They're a very young and dangerous team. Their counter attack is unbelievable. Like you look at like Oisin McDonagh there, I think he kicked 1-4 against Mountbellew. You have Fionn McDonagh who was with the under-20s, and like I know when we were preparing with Leitrim for Galway in the first round, he was somebody I was very worried about. Like he's a real live wire and really, really good player. Like Warren Shoiga there at centre forward is a massive playmaker, and like Dylan Shoiga would have been a massive loss to them when he got the red card. But they showed really good character to battle against a tough and seasoned Mountbellew team. Albeit like look at Mountbellew are young as well. They've lost their few players, but there's still an awful lot of lads there with massive experience. And for Leitir Mór to go and battle with them like they did, and get that goal at the death, it's a really good sign of character for them. And like I think it's going to be an absolute cracker of a game now between them and Dunmore. But the red cards, like you said, will have a massive bearing on it. Like Evan O'Flaherty and Dylan Shoiga would be two massive losses if they weren't available for them.
Just on someone, because I highlighted him against when you played them, and he was a player that I wasn't that familiar with, but I thought he was just unreal for the battle that day. Casey O'Keally.
Oh, something else. Something else, and like he gave John Maher a lot of it, and like he would have been when I was talking to people around the county about Leitir Mór, he was the name that kept popping up as well to keep an eye on him, because he's an athletic fella from midfield. He's big, he's strong, really strong runner, and he can do a bit of damage. And by all accounts, he was very strong there against Mountbellew again. But he's definitely somebody that, like yourself, he came out of nowhere for me this year. I literally just heard about him talking to people, and when I was watching him back in tape from the Comortas and that, I was very impressed by him. And we were like he really gave John a good bit of it. But he's like that Leitir Mór team. They really have 5, 6, 7 lads there that are real high quality that can really push on. And I think like themselves and Dunmore will be so well matched because they're so similar in being a young, pacey, counter-attacking kind of a team that that can really catch you if you're asleep.
On Mountbellew, like John Daly, there's no point in saying otherwise. If he can't play against Tuam, he's really going to be a massive loss with the bodies they already have gone to Australia. Patrick Kelly and Michael Daly just struggling to get back to full fitness this year. It's a lot for any management to deal with, but I suppose people maybe were a bit confused when they see John Daly and Evan O'Flaherty's red card. It just looked more so like a wrestle to the ground, but then there's indications maybe that starts the melee then, and maybe that's why Richard McNicholas deems a red card for both of them.
Yeah, and like the John would be a huge loss for them. Like they've lost big leaders there. With Owen Finnerty, Cullen Mannion, Mike Daly, Patrick Kelly, not fully fit. Um, like probably a little bit over reliant on Barry McHugh up top. And they have an awful lot of young fellas then, the likes of Kieran Mulhern, who's a really promising young footballer. He's still finding his feet in senior football. Um, and like obviously Colin Murray now back as well is huge for them, because he was missing the first day out against us, but like he's a massive player to have back as well. But like they're still a tough team, and no team that Valdaly is over will ever lie down without a fight. So like I know they're missing a lot of players, and if they're missing John, he's a huge loss, but they'll still give it to Tuam massively. And they'll be well up for it. And like the way that they play, they stay in a game. Like the likes of Leo Donlan, and he can cause a bit of trouble as well. And like I think he popped up for a goal or so there the
Yeah.
last day. And like if they can get a couple of boys supporting Barry McHugh up top, and start troubling the scoreboard a bit, they can really do a bit of damage. But they just need everybody going well, and if they had John going into Tuam, that'd definitely be preferable for them.
Yeah, I do think they'd be frustrated with the manner of the way they conceded the goal, like any team would be when that happens.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
And before that ball was kicked in, it was actually really good defending to keep that ball out and keep them held outside the 45. And at that stage, it's just a kick to nothing. And you're looking at the ball going in, you're seeing one Leitir Mór man and three Mountbellew boys around, and you're saying there's no way that he's going to get the hand to this, but he does. And it really is heartbreaking for them. But the thing about Mountbellew is they play their best football when the backs are against the wall. It's nearly always been the case with them. And their backs are going to be against the wall going into Tuam now. And Val will have them coming out with the fist going and ready to fight for a quarter final, because like Mountbellew are a top team in Galway, and this is a great opportunity for them to prove it with missing players. And that would really kind of cement their position as a top team in Galway.
Sure, I think we should just all maybe keep our eyes peeled because with John Daly, because I don't think it's a definite that he will be out of Thursday night's clash yet. There could definitely be a chance that he still plays. Maybe they might decide to appeal it there and hope that they are successful. So just on that group, Salthill straight into the quarter final. Leitir Mór played Dunmore McHale's in the prelim in Tuam on Saturday. Thursday night, Tuam Stairs, Mountbellew my loss 7:45, Duggan Park. It's a game that'll definitely be worth attending because I think there's definitely going to be fireworks there. And then Caltra play Claregalway in the relegation semi final. James, I presume when you're involved with other club, even though they're in the same championship as your own club, you still want your own club to do well. And like it was always going to be a nail biting game, as I was labeling it during the week. It was the game between the last two intermediate champions. It was always going to be a close one, 9-8, and they did battle back towards the end, but just couldn't even get the equaliser towards the end.
Yeah, like it's like I'll tell you, I raced in the road from Kenny Park to get into Tuam to get to this game. Like I suppose I was only looking at the front of the program here. There's the team photo from last year, the intermediate final, and like I went back playing last year purely because of the group of lads that were there. I think out of that panel that we have there, I would have coached 19 or 20 of them at some stage within the club, and obviously I have an awfully close affinity to those lads. So seeing them in this position is tough. Like the first day out against St. James's, they probably should have won that game. They kicked an awful lot of wides in the second half. Probably could have won the game by 3 or 4 points. And if they'd gotten that, it could have been a different story altogether. Going into Dunmore, like it was always going to be a tough battle. Like Dunmore against Mike Cullen the first day out in Kenny Park were exceptional in that first half. They were absolutely breathtaking that first half, and I think Mike Cullen really put a squeeze on them in the second half, and kind of managed the game that bit better than Dunmore, and got that win. Then they went to St James's and they get pipped by a point against St James's again, and I think those two games really helped them going into this Monterey game, because they learned an awful lot. And they learned a lot from those previous two games about seeing out games, and they got 3 points ahead against Monterey going into the last few minutes. I think it was 9-6 in the last few minutes. Then Monterey really put the squeeze on them. Dunmore were battling, and they just held on. And that's huge for that young Dunmore team, because it's that's massive experience for them to have. Staying out of relegation battle, going into a prelim game against Nevena where they can really have a go at it, will be huge for them. From Monterey, they'll definitely be disappointed. They would have had real hopes and ambitions to get into a prelim and see where the year could take them. But they're definitely good enough to
Is that down to the jump, do you think, from intermediate to senior? Because even with Dunmore, they came up last year and they ended up in the relegation, and it's one of the second intermediate team and they end up in relegation. I'm fairly sure Leitir Mór, the year they came up too, they ended up in relegation in their first year up too.
Yeah, I think there's a massive difference in the two grades from a game management point of view. Seeing out games and seeing out a certain 5-minute period of pressure and so on, that doesn't happen an awful lot in intermediate. I think at intermediate level, generally the better organized and the more fit you are, the better position you're putting yourself in. When you get to senior, everybody's as fit and everybody's organized. So it really comes down to kind of your game management experience, and I think you can only learn that from playing at the highest level. Monterey have been in Division 2 the last 2 years, and that's a really high level. It is a good level, but it's not the same as you're playing your Corofins and your Tuams in Division 1. And again, Monterey are a very young team, very very young team. So they'll definitely learn from that, and they have to learn from that. And they have to learn from the likes of that Mike Cullen game, where you can't really go 15 on 15 at times. You have to play that game management game, and even though it mightn't be pretty at times, you need to see out a game and you need to see out a period of time. But I think Monterey, they're definitely good enough to stay up. The talent is definitely there. Against Dunmore, they were missing Dara Burke and Cian Dolan, who were two big losses. Cian is injured and Dara was abroad. If you had those two lads, they would have been an awful lot stronger. Billy Muldowney didn't start. He only came on for a few minutes. His pace would have added a lot as well throughout the game. But I think as a whole, Monterey are probably a little bit too reliant on Glenn Kelly up top. And for Glenn, it's been a tough year because he's getting an awful lot closer attention now at senior level than he would have gotten at intermediate level. And an awful lot more bodies back. And same with Killian McDade, he's getting an awful lot more pressure. So there's definitely a big step up. And I think it's the game management side of things is the biggest of the lot, because I've seen with one of the boys, they're putting in massive work. They're in the gym, twice a week. They're working really hard individually, a really good bunch. But you cannot get that experience that you need, that championship experience on the training pitch. You can only get it by playing the really big important games in championship football.
Furthermore, it's massive resilience, really, when you consider what they've been through in the group stage. Obviously, everyone knows that they were well ahead against Mike Cullen. Mike Cullen came back and pipped them that day. The game against James's, there was 2 or 3 chances that I'm sure they'd have huge regrets over. And then the last day, as you talked about, they went to 9-6. Monterey got to 2 points, but they're able to close it out. Jake Slattery really seemed to be the standout for them, 3 from play at the weekend out of Dunmore 9 points.
Yeah, after Jake's a flyer, but they have a really nice balanced team. You have Danny Ford back there, and he's kind of doing the main man marking role. You you have Shane McGrath's kind of popping in between the forwards and midfield, Jake Slattery, the two Costellos, Park and Column. Thomas Gleeson does a ridiculous amount of work around the pitch that people don't see. The transition he starts from defence to attack is absolutely huge. Obviously, then you have Connor Gleeson in goal that adds an awful lot, and Jamie Cohn up top is a huge kind of presence as well. He's a massive worker, a great target man, and they just have a really nice balanced team that are young, pacey, and full of intent. And full of talent. I mean, you're looking at the Costellos there, Jake Slattery, Shane McGrath. These lads are gifted. They push into any team in the county, really. So to have all those lads together in a forward line in one club is huge.
It's spicy in one way too, like Leitir Mór, Dunmore. That was obviously an intermediate final a few years ago.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be a few memories of that now, and a few will be mentioned, all right, in the build up to it. But I'm really looking forward to that game. I think that's going to be a real cracker, because you're going to have two young teams that want to move the ball fast and want to get the ball into the forwards and get scores. And I think it's going to be a real entertaining game of football. And to be fair to them, I think if either team comes out of that, your teams in the quarterfinals already will be they'll have to be on guard, because a young team like that, like either of those, can cause you a bit of damage if you're not fully focused on them.
And the other game in that group, Mike Cullen 9, James is 6, and as you talked about, Saturday was like winter football, Sunday was like summer football, and when I literally say that, that's what it was literally like. The Mike Cullen James's game, conditions were horrible. It was that gale force, wet breeze in Pearse Stadium that we're kind of all accustomed to at this stage, but it was still intriguing when it got tight and it was coming down towards the end. That last 10 minutes, there was, I suppose, that bit of chaos just came about in the game.
Yeah, and I think you're looking at, I think it was 2 points apiece at half time. Conroy kicked some massive points in that first half as well, and I think James's are very solid defensively. They're really solid defensively, and they're kind of very similar to the Monavea game. They batten down the hatches for a while. They keep it tight. They get their few scores up top, and they pick away at the scoreboard, and then they kind of come alive in the last 10-15 minutes. And you have the players to do that. Like Conroy is a Rolls Royce of a footballer. You have the two O'Neills, who are absolutely exceptional. Johnny Duane is still running around the place like a young fella, and James Egan there in goal is starting an awful lot of their quick attacks at time, and they're able to mix it up nicely. It probably, like, Mike Cullen have shown really good experience there in the last in the first game and that game, to be in those tight games and get their scores when they need to get scores, and pull it back and pull it back and pull it back and pull away when they needed to pull away. Obviously the introduction of Peter Cook was massive, and despite the weather conditions, he kicked two huge points that they badly needed at the time. So for them, he's going to be a huge addition to have now going forward again.
Let's just hope he comes back into the Galway panel for next year.
Absolutely.
Even when you see the scores he was taking on, it was a difference. But what he would add to that group.
Absolutely, it's Peter is one of those players that you love to watch, because he plays the game with intent. And I think his second point typifies that. I think he got the ball outside the 45. He ran directly at a second man, and popped it over the bar. And there's probably, the way the game has gone now, there's probably not enough intent. So when you see a player like that with intent, you want to be looking at him every week. So if we saw him in a Galway jersey again, I think we'd all be very happy with that.
With Mike Cullen, I know they only scored 9 points, but is the biggest threat I was kind of thinking about Mike Cullen, and I was kind kind of thinking this after the game. Is their biggest threat the power they get even from their back six, the power that those six backs run with, and the threat that they cause teams going forward from their backs?
Oh yeah, it's huge. Like you look at the Kellys, you look at Gallagher there as well. Like they're just all around the pitch. They're big men that can move well. And when they're moving off the shoulder like they can do, they're very hard to stop. Very hard to stop. When they move with intent, they're very hard to stop. Like any team, if you move slow and defense gets set up, and it's hard to break them down. But when they go, it's hard to stop them, and that's always been their biggest attribute is their intentful running in numbers. And then obviously your inside forwards like Niall Walsh and Desi Keneally able to pop the ball over the bar either foot from any angle is also a massive help. But no, like their running power and their running intent is a massive plus for them.
There's no doubt about it. Like they're well and truly back now as contenders. They're getting bodies back. Even James McLaughlin late on the last day, Jared Davern on the last day, Peter Cook. Like they're getting every day they go out, they're getting closer and closer to full strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And the like the work that's been done there, like they've obviously trained very, very hard. And Mark McHugh's been doing a lot with them, and they're all at a very high level. So when you're adding in the players of that caliber into that, and they're probably a little bit fresher from being away or being injured. It's a dangerous mix. It is a dangerous mix for everybody else that's out there. But no, like you'd be an absolute fool if you were writing off Mike Cullen at any stage with the experience that they have and the footballers that they have.
If we were to look then at Group 3, it was probably the most drama that we got in the group overall. Obviously, that Dunmore and Monavea game there decided a lot, but Group 3, Corofin Tuam yet again, it just always produces this game of football, and Corofin would be happy to get over the line because obviously if Tuam were to pip them, they would have got them on the head-to-head, and they'll be happy with that, but Tuam will have plenty of regrets too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Corofin showed glimpses of really amazing football. Like Tony Gill got 1-1 inside 7 minutes at the beginning there yesterday, and he was flying. Connor Cunningham's goal with the kick pass from Gary Sice, that little pop pass into the D, unbelievable. And the finish then on top of that, like some of their transition play that it wouldn't have been caught up in the highlights. But when you were watching in person, you were looking around and you were saying, Jesus Christ, how is anybody going to stop these? But Tuam really kept in the game well, despite that. They're solid in defence. Dave Donlan has them, really solid in defence. They're working really, really hard. And when they have Brian Mannion, who's on form, kicking points, they can do anything. Now, the worry probably is that they may be a little bit over-reliant on Brian. Like he kicked 8 points of their 12. Conor Atkin tipped in with 3, and I think Dara Heenan got the other, so that was their 12. And you're getting 8 points from your 6 forwards, and they're all coming from one of your forwards is possibly a worry. Like if they could get the other lads popping in with a point or two here, or if Ben O'Connell had gotten that goal chance that he got in the second half, then all of a sudden things are different, and you're playing with more confidence and you can really go at it. But they showed really, really good character to keep in the game, and they could have done it in the end. And that's what you're going to get out of Tuam every time you go out against Corofin, is going to be that tight game and never say die kind of attitude.
I think it's particularly for the Tuam younger players like the McGlinskys, the Max O'Connells, these players that like they would have always seen this Corofin team, but it was just the experience for those fellas to get against playing a team like Corofin. It'll just bring them on so much.
Oh, huge. And the likes of Rory Igo coming on there as a sub, like those lads, those young fellas are exceptional footballers, unbelievable hard workers. I had the pleasure of working with them in Jarlath's, and they love Tuam more than anything else. Like they do anything for Tuam, and it's just typical Tuam Stars lads. They want nothing more than to play for Tuam Stars and to win games for Tuam Stars. So they would have loved that game now, getting out there and mixing it with big boys and showing that they're every bit as good as them. So like they'll take massive positives out of that going into Mountbellew, and like that's going to be a huge battle now, a huge battle.
Is the turnaround the only thing there? Like it's safe for Tuam, like they're after putting so much into that Corofin game, and there's no doubt about it. Tuam went to beat Corofin yesterday, and obviously just came up short. But the quick turnaround now to play a team like Mountbellew on Thursday evening.
Very tough, and it'll be tough for Mountbellew as well. Like they only have an extra day, but an extra day is huge when you're talking about 5 or 6. But like it is hard, and it's going to be hard for the two managements to obviously prepare what they need to prepare on the opposition first of all, but to physically prepare your group to get them right, and get them on the pitch for the match on Thursday, and then mentally to try and get them as fresh as possible and as focused as possible, coming off 2 defeats, going into a do or die game that's going to be a bit of a war on Thursday night. So it'll be very interesting to see that game on Thursday and what they're like, and then to turn around then again and play a quarter final not long after that is going to be the next challenge after that for the winners of that.
On Corofin, you're obviously going to say someone else is going to win Frank Fox this year, but on like, are they still at the moment favourites in your eyes?
I think like you're looking at the county champions from last year. You're looking at the county champions from last year who had an unbelievable league campaign again. They're after getting 3 wins on the trot in their group stages, while showing glimpses of vintage, amazing Corofin football. Like they're definitely a team to beat for any of the chasing pack. Because like you look at their players, their depth is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. To be able to look at the likes of Ross Cohn, the likes of Dylan Brady, the likes of Rona Steve playing intermediate football, is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Like you're looking at Micheál Lundy coming in as a sub, and what that man can do and the experience that he brings. I mean, and you're not even talking about Martin Farrer or Mike Farrer who are injured and not togged last day. So like their depth is out of this world, absolutely out of this world. And like you're looking, like you've Bernie Power in goal, and you have your inter-county goalkeeper Norman Burke playing intermediate football and on the bench there, and it's an unbelievable it's an unbelievable thing for them to have those players and that kind of that squad depth to go into a championship. So like look, there's no 2 ways about it. They're the team to beat. They're definitely the favourites, and like when you're looking at 3 wins in 3 championship games, you can't argue with it.
I know you work closely with Kevin. Have you sent him a text yet to maybe say see you later in the year yet?
Oh no, I don't talk to Kevin at all anymore. No, we talk the odd time now, all right. But Ari, he was a dream to work with up in Torlestrand, and like I know he's really enjoying what he's doing in Corofin. So if we were to cross paths now later on in the year, I'd say we'd both enjoy it. But we have to get there first.
On the other game, on Claregalway and Oughterard, if Claregalway lost by 3, they were through. They lost by 4. Oughterard had to win by 4 to get through. So it's fairly blunt when you look at it that way. But I'm going to give my take on Claregalway, and maybe you mightn't agree with me here. But for me, at the minute, they are the biggest underachievers in Galway senior club football when you consider the panel, everything they've had. They brought in a setup this year that they really thought they believed in, and they knew what they had to do before they went out yesterday, and they really struggled against that Oughterard defensive system. And it's just a strange one because you know the talent this Claregalway team and the group they have, the minor teams they've had, the 20 teams they've had, and I don't think anyone can really put their finger on it. Why Claregalway? Like, even if you were consider if they were to get to a quarter final, they haven't been able to get to the last four since they've made the return to senior football.
Yeah, and like, look at it. They're definitely. I'm sure they're disappointed with their return over the last few years. Considering the players they have, considering the success they've had. But I think if you look at it, if you look at this year, they were probably a little bit unlucky in that it's a very tough group. They knew they'd have to catch one of Corofin or Tuam and aim to beat Oughterard. They got their win against Tuam. They looked very good against Tuam. Although they did struggle at times against Tuam's defensive setup. They looked good against Corofin when it was an open game of football. And then the two goals that Corofin got was the real difference. But I think the real issue going into Oughterard was Oughterard's defensive setup and how Claregalway were going to be able to deal with that. As it turned out, they probably didn't deal with it very well.
And Conor Campbell was a massive loss at even fullback. They put Ryan Flaherty in there, and like even for Ryan Flaherty, like there was a big height difference if one of the Tierneys went inside, and Oughterard for their two goals, like Enda didn't catch the first one, but even him going for the ball was able to put the Claregalway defence off. And for the second goal, I think it was Matthew plays it off to James Webb, and he finishes it into the back of the net. Like it was just really Oughterard decided when that Claregalway defence was there that they were going to hit in long and use the high ball, and they are one of the teams that definitely have the height to do it.
Yeah, I think Claregalway are probably one of your smallest teams in stature. Like they're not blessed with big men. They're really not blessed with big men. And Conor Campbell, huge loss to take him out of defence. And it's definitely a tougher kind of a job. Like Oughterard they are dangerous. And again, they had an unbelievable Division 2 campaign. Like they got to the final against us, and like they bet us in the first round of the league by 5 out in Oughterard. Really solid defensively, but dangerous going forward with their counter attack. Like really, really pacey. Your two Monaghan's, Niall Lee, they were kind of your boys being kept up top, and when they were moving the ball fast and getting the ball up there, it was hard to stop them. Then you partner that with the defensive system, and they have a nice kind of a setup. Now, Eric Lee is a huge loss for them.
Yeah, just
like he did the cruciate there against Cardiff Strand in the league, and he was flying that day. He was absolutely flying that day. And it was just so unfortunate the way it happened to him. So I think everybody knew that's what Oughterard do. They're solid defensively, and they'll try and catch you on the break. And if you let the Monaghan's get 1-2s, they'll cut through your defence. And
thing's been a massive addition as well. Cathal Donoghue, obviously cousins with the Tierneys. He played for that Offaly under 20 winning All Ireland team, and he was back playing yesterday, and he's really influential. He missed all last year through the cruciate as well.
Yeah, a huge addition. And like going back to Claregalway, they're definitely going to be disappointed. They're definitely going to be disappointed. Are they good enough to make knockout football? Absolutely. Are they missing maybe one or two marquee footballers that will kick you 5, 6, 7, 8 points and win the real dirty ball when it needs to be won, or be a target man inside when you need a release point? Possibly. But I think the thing for Patrick Finnegan and Alan Glynn there is you need to figure out what you have and what works for that group, and figure out how to get the most out of it, because as a club Claregalway have won so much at underage, but it just hasn't produced to senior titles, and that's something they probably need to try and get the finger on and try and push on if they're going to trouble a knockout stages of a county senior championship before it's too late.
It's still a very young Claregalway team. Like Mark Rowan, Darren Hennessy, they're probably some of the oldest players on the teams. And then you're going, even if you're going down to your younger players like Owen Morgan, Jack Lonergan, they obviously missed Dana Monaghan as well, who was flying at the start of the year. But on that, it's still very young. But I suppose if you're even to compare that, a lot of clubs in Galway are nearly at that kind of going towards that similar age profile now in club teams.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at it because, like you're looking, Monavale is a very, very young team. I think I played a junior game for Monavale last year, and I was the second oldest at 27. And that's an outrageous thing to be going out in a junior game. I think we played a league game, and I was third oldest at 27. Do you know, like you're looking at Dunmore as an extremely young team, Leitir Mór extremely young, Mountbellew now is getting very young. Like Salthill, even our age profile in Salthill is young. Claregalway young, Oughterard young. Like you're right, it is the way things are going now. It is becoming that younger age profile. But I think you need what I always say, when you have young lads coming through, you need older lads to kind of show them the way and give them that experience that they have. And I think that's probably what Claregalway lacked a little bit, is those older players to bridge the gap from your Mark Rohans up over the last few years. And now obviously they're there and they're able to bridge a gap to the younger lads, but they'd definitely be disappointed with their return over the past few years. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah, in that group, obviously, as we mentioned, Tuam play Mountbellew, Oughterard play Milltown. That'll be a fascinating one. Claregalway going to the relegation against Carstrand. Corofin go straight through to the quarter. Group 4 then, Anadown top the group. The Becklan yesterday made hard work out of it, 2-13 to 2-8. The biggest concern for them is obviously going to be Damien Comer was limped off to injury in the first half. So just James, please God, for his own sake, he's all right, because he's went through so much. Like it's just been a terrible year injury wise for him. What he's had to deal with, and even we seen him in the early rounds of the club championship, how well he's been playing.
Yeah, like he was a huge loss for Galway throughout the year when he wasn't playing. And then you know, even when he did come back and he wasn't 100%, you know, he was still a loss, even though we had him on the pitch and he wasn't 100%. You know, you just really wish you could see him 100% fit again, because he hasn't been fit in a long time. Unfortunately, it's just the way he plays the game. He picks up these injuries, and you know, if we were to get him fully fit for a club championship and for a county championship, or an intercounty championship, you know, we'd be flying. Like he like that goal he got the last day out was unbelievable. Like that, a bit of class that not many players can produce. So like please God, he's not too bad, because Anadown will want him going into a quarter final, and they'll need him, because anybody coming out of those prelims are going to be well up there and well ready for it. But you know, like you have with Anadown now, like the likes of Jack Dowd is showing really well. He's kind of maturing that little bit more every year. He's getting that bit more experience. Like the two Kilcommons are becoming huge men for Anadown, and I think Jeremy was unbelievable at centre back there the last day. And then Frankie Burke is rolling back the years every day he goes out. So, you know, if you have Damien fully fit there alongside those lads, you know, you have a really good chance to mix things up later on the year.
Stephen Curley too was very impressive yesterday again. But it's massive credit to Norman O'Brien for he's come in from Kilconnelly. Like in the last few years, Anadown have obviously lost Ryan Ford, Sean Ford, Kieran Potter, Joe Kern, Owen Kern, Conor Maloney. Like it's an endless list when the players that we have lost, unfortunately, just due to traveling, and players that have went abroad, and he's really rebuilt like a new team even here from scratch.
Yeah, and things I would have heard great things about Norman from his time in Kilconnelly, and obviously the lads in Anadown were thrilled when he went in initially, and they were thrilled throughout the league. From when I was talking to them and during our league games and our league semi final and that. But I was talking to Damien Dowd over the past few years. I'd be friendly with him from our time working together with the development squads, and he always said when he was over them that you couldn't ask for a better bunch of lads than the Anadown boys. That they work no matter what. They give you anything that they had. And I think for Norman going in, that's all he could ask for. And when you have a group like that, it goes an awful long way to fill in those gaps and producing a really good group to go and push on. But it really is a case of you get everybody on the pitch and down, and you could go anywhere you want. But it's just a matter of getting everybody on the pitch and getting everybody fit.
Yeah, obviously with that Damien Comer injury, they'll be hoping that's not too serious. They're in the quarter. Their opponents, Killannon, it was a sort of funny kind of game. Like they went in 6 down at the break. Roland Colway comes on in the second half, gets sent off straight away for the shoulder into the head on Jack Dowd, and then they just battle back tremendously, and then they have a penalty. Owen Curry stops it, and Anadown go on to win. But they did show glimpses there, but it's still like they're still trying to, I suppose, feed in a lot of this under 19 team into their senior team at the minute.
Yeah, and Killannon are again one of those teams where the age profile is very young. Obviously you have your Sweeneys and Johnny Heaney there, like they're your older statesmen, and if you're able to feed in those younger lads with those really experienced boys, it's exactly what Killannon need. And I suppose Killannon are blessed to have Johnny Heaney there, Mr. Killannon. He's an absolute role model to anybody going in there. So they're in a good place. They are in a good place, and they probably showed a good bit of character. They really threw the kitchen sink at it and brought the game back into the melting pot. We're unfortunate with that penalty, save from Owen Curry, obviously. And I think there was one point in it at that stage when the penalty was saved. So like if that had gone in, it could have been a different story. But again, like they'll fancy their chances against St James's. That's going to be a really good kind of a prelim game, and it's going to be a really interesting match there.
Yeah, Patrick Sweeney obviously missed yesterday's game. He was a big loss, so they'll hope to have him back Thursday night in Corofin. Maybe the turnaround could be a bit too quick there, but they're playing James's Thursday night in the prelim at 7:45 in Corofin. So that's the other prelim with Tuam Mountbellew taking place. On the other game, Barna Milltown, like it's big result for Barna going into relegation to beat an established senior team like Milltown. Like Sean Dunn was just outstanding yesterday. 1-3 out of Barna's 110.
Yeah, and I think now my calculations could be wrong, but I think they needed to win by about 6 to avoid the drop.
Yeah.
And if they had won by 6, they would end up putting Milltown down into the relegation. So like it was it was a real battle. Like I was very impressed with Sean Dunn. He kept going, and Oisin Gormley inside as well for Branu. The two of them were absolutely brilliant. Sean Fitzgerald was out around the middle of the field, and he added a good bit of kind of energy around there. But like it is big momentum for them going into that relegation game to have gotten that win. It's an awful lot easier to go into a relegation game like that, having won a game by a point than lost a game by a point. So obviously, like they're going to take that little bit of positivity out of that and go into Monterey and see what they can do. And Milltown were unlucky not to get the win. Like if you look at that goal, it was probably a little bit fortuitous in the way that it came about. Like the high ball in, the defender dropping it when he shouldn't have dropped it, and then Anthony Coyne getting bet on the near post. So that goal doesn't go in. Milltown see it out. Like Mike Martin is still there kicking 6 points Owen Mannion is awful dangerous. You have the two Costellos, Liam and Niall. You know, the pace they have there. Jack Horan pushing out from 6. I think Owen Mannion popped up from corner back with a point as well. Like they're a dangerous team with massive, massive, massive senior experience. And I think they'll be leaning on that experience when they go to play Oughterard now and in the prelim.
Yeah, that'll definitely be an interesting one there. So as that group goes, Anadown quarters, Milltown, Oughterard obviously in that prelim quarterfinal there. Clan and James's, as we mentioned, and Barna, they play Monavea Abbey. James, if we're just to touch on the intermediate, and I think if anyone was to predict the intermediate at the start of the year, the way it's going now, I think they'd be lying, because I don't think anyone could have really predicted it. If we look at Group 4, because they were obviously the games yesterday, Michael Brannocks 114, Cortin Shamrocks 12 points, Caltra 18 points, Kilkerran 10 points. It was funny in one way because Caltra Kilkerran was over, and Kilkerran were hoping that Michael Brannocks should push on and win by the certain amount that they had to win, that it sent Cortoon back into relegation. But then the point or two that Cortoon got late on, that got them into the prelim and sent Kilkerran into the relegation.
Yeah, it was like a really tough group now, and you know, it was always going to come down to the final day when you were looking at those 4 teams there. Like I saw Caltra the first day out against Brannocks, and to be honest, I was blown away by them. I expect them to be good. I didn't expect them to be that good. And I think that for me, Caltra and Oranmore are the top 2 at the minute. I think they're both flying. They're both really well organised. And I think for Caltra, you know, they're young, they're energetic, they're well organised, and they're well coached there by Niall Coyne. But the addition of Mikey Mulrine into the fold has been huge, because it's a godsend for Alan Naughton, because now, you know, he's getting a steady supply of good ball coming into him, plus the pressure's being taken off him. And, you know, Sean Kane there had a great game as well yesterday. So, like, you have 3 or 4 lads up top, Ono Cali as well, that are real dangerous footballers for Caltra. And then you have a really good kind of defensive setup there as well, with the likes of Darren McCabe holding things tight. And, you know, they just have a really nice balanced young team. And to be honest, they thoroughly deserve to be top in that group and finishing on 6 points. For Clonberne, you know, probably still heavily reliant on Conor Rabbit. But a seasoned intermediate team, they'd be very disappointed to go into relegation. But like, end of the day, he'll know that he just needs a couple of more boys to step up and perform with Rabbit, and, you know, they should be okay going into Menla if they can get enough boys stepping up and getting themselves right for that.
Yeah, there's an interesting dynamic obviously there with Kilkerran and Menla. Johnny Ryan, he coached Menla last year to the junior title, so he'll obviously come up against them. So that makes it an interesting dynamic there. But just on Brannocks, like, they're obviously one of the big contenders this year. They got it back on track yesterday. Amazingly, lost their first 2 games, won their last game, and they finished in second place now.
Yeah, and I think like, from talking to a couple of the Brannocks lads, they were very happy where they were at going into the first round against Caltra. And I think from watching on in the terrace in Tuam Stadium, they were shell shocked by how good Caltra were. And I think, you know, the second day out, they get caught again. And their backs were against the wall then, you know, and you know, they had to get a win, and they had to come out fighting. And to be fair to Colin Thumman, he had them ready, and then they had to go out and they had to battle, and they did. And they battled right to the end. It wasn't until, you know, that goal in the last few minutes by Micheál Brannocks that kind of got them over the line to get them there, you know. But like, again, they've loads of talent, the likes of Mike McGarrett, of Killian O'Curran, you know, your seasoned players of Fiac O'Bera, Sean Denver, Fintan O'Curran. You know, obviously, you know, if you get all those lads on the pitch, and, you know, they can do things, like, they're still in it. and it's a real compliment to their character that they're still in it, and to finish second after the poor start. And like, they have the talent, they have the players, and they have the experience to go into that prelim against Kilconnelly and get kickstart their year from there.
Yeah, on to Group 3, because it's where Corofin will meet Michaels in the preliminary quarter-final. Oranmore finished top, as you mentioned, there, and obviously Glenmadia play Spittle. They got third place in the end, and Menlaw into relegation against Kilcairn, as we mentioned. Oranmore, the standout team so far, but Michaels with a big win over Glenmadia. Are they slowly starting to get their hopes for an intermediate title back on track?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's huge momentum for them now going into the prelims. Like, to be fair, I think Oranmore are flying fit, like flying fit, and I think what they're getting this year that they didn't have in previous years is a support cast for Mark Ronaldson. Like, Declan Gill got 2 goals there yesterday, and I think Johnny Keller got the other 2. Like Declan's a fantastic footballer. I was it's 5 years back now. They were my first adult team at intermediate level during the COVID times, and I remember Dec at that stage technically gifted, but just couldn't break into the team. And so when I saw that he was going so well there yesterday, I was thrilled to see it, because I think he set up another 1-2 on top of what he scored. And when you're not relying on Mark Ronson to be kicking you 8-9 points, all of a sudden your whole game opens up. And they're starting to push on, and I think they're going to fancy going far, and I think they're going to fancy adding to their underage success that they've been having in the past few years. And I think with Jerry Fahey there, with the kind of old school, tough love kind of thing, and Mark Gotcha then with the modern kind of view on everything, I think it's a lovely mix that they have going on at the minute. So it'll be really interesting to see how they progress now into the knockout stages.
Were you surprised by Glenmadia that they took such a beating to Michaels? Because it even felt like when they got over Menlaw that they were starting to come, and they've been close enough over the last few years, but maybe just haven't finished the campaign that you would have thought they would have.
Yeah, I think back in 2021, they kind of came out of nowhere at that stage. I think they came out of nowhere on that stage, 2020, 2021. And I remember thinking to myself, this team will win a county title in the next 2-3 years. And they will be disappointed that they haven't pushed on. They'll be disappointed, that they finished third in this group now, albeit probably the group of death in reality in intermediate. Yeah. A very, very tough group. But they will be disappointed, and like they have it all to do now against Spittle, because Spittle aren't a bad team, and they seem to be getting things together again. But again, Glenmadia have talent, like the likes of Conor Rafferty, McDara Garrity, and Cormac Haslam there, like good footballers all around the pitch. And you have your likes the Aidan Garrity there in full back, your experienced stalwart that will do whatever's needed to win the games. And they have a nice mix, but I'd love to see them push on and get to semi-final and maybe further, because that's where I think their talent is. I think they have the talent to go and push on, but I think they will be disappointed they haven't pushed on the last few years. And I think they'll be hoping to get it done in the next few years, because with intermediate football, if you only get a short window, you really only get a short window in intermediate, because it's dog eat dog. And like you look at your teams that were in the semi-final last year. Okay, Monavea went up. Aran Islands are now in relegation. You have Kilconnelly, who are in a county final, like they finished third. It's a tough championship to win. So you only get a short window, and you have to take it when it opens up for you.
Gabriel's the biggest surprise package this year in intermediate football.
I think so. I think for me, themselves and Clifton have both really kind of taken me by surprise. But I saw about 20, 30 minutes of the Gabriel's game in Kenny Park before our own game. And I was very impressed with the way they controlled it. Like they went in 5-3 at half time, really, really poor conditions, but they were in total control of the game against Williamstown. I think Sean Harkin ended up kicking 1-2 for them. James Eden kicked 4 points. They were able to introduce Jam Mannion, who was a Galway hurling panelist there for a while. Like he's an exceptional footballer. And they looked like they had the physicality, the fitness, and the few footballers that you need to do a bit of damage in intermediate. And I was very, very impressed with the way they controlled it. Now you have to caveat that with it being a bit of a dead rubber for Williamstown, who were in relegation already. So, but like, look at 2 wins and a draw in that group with Spiddle, Corofin, Williamstown is very good going. And they deserve to be where they are, to be honest.
Yeah, even that game between Spiddle and Corofin B, like there was nothing between them. Spiddle just pipping them by a point then just to get second spot, and Corofin B to finish in third.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Finn McIntyre, I think, had a last
Yeah.
minute shot as well. That if that had gone over, it would have been a different story. But like again, a really tough group, and like Spiddle going into Glenamaddy, that'll be a battle. Like Corofin going into play St Brendan's, that's going to be a battle. Like these intermediate games, the prelim games are going to be really entertaining. And again, like you're looking like your Clifton, Gabriel's, Oranmore, and Caltra as your quarterfinalists. Could you have picked all 4 of those at the beginning of the
No.
year? I don't think so. So that's the sign of a really good championship.
It's such a relief though for those 4 teams to not be in the prelims for all those clubs now, because there is there's so many 50-50 games there that in those prelim intermediate games.
Oh, like there's no easy game. There's absolutely no easy game. Like Brendan's Kilconnelly, 2 really good intermediate teams. Like Kilconnelly in the last 2 intermediate finals, or close enough to the last 2 intermediate finals. Like your Spiddle Corofin, again, like you're looking at Spiddle. They still have that bit of senior experience after coming down not long ago, and you're looking at Corofin then with senior players playing intermediate football, like Dylan Brady, Matthew Cooley got 1-1, Keane Murphy, Galway under 20 kicked 1-3. You're looking at St Michael's, Glenamaddy, like Michael's just down from senior, Glenamaddy knocking on the door a long time, and Brannock's and Cortu knocking on the door a long time as well. So your prelims are absolutely stacked. So if you're one of those 4 teams in a quarter final, you're counting your blessings that you have that extra little bit of time to get yourselves ready for it.
Just James, on Group 1 before we finish up. Obviously Clifton there, they were 1-8, the 1-8 to 1-6 it was. They got the goal in the end, and that actually, if it stayed the way it was, Kilconnelly were heading for relegation, so they'll be relieved in one way when you consider that happened. But in that game, obviously, that kept Kilconnelly in the championship, and it was a statement too by Brendan's to beat Kilconnelly 3-9 to 5 points.
Absolutely, and I think Brendan's were impressive in that they always seem to have a nice mix of their scores. Like they're one of the best Facebook pages around for putting up information on matches and scores and everything. But like you're looking at like Rory Cunningham 1-2, Paddy Downey 1-2, James Mulrooney 1-1. Like they're massive scores to be getting in an intermediate championship game against Kilconnelly. Now, again, you caveat that with Paul Mannion missing for Kilconnelly, who's obviously the heartbeat of that Kilconnelly team. He was missing through illness, and he's the real main source of scores for them. David Prendergast hasn't been fully fit. I think he played a little bit there yesterday, had to come off as well. And when you're losing big players like that, it's very hard to go and push on and get close to winning games. So for them, they're probably lucky to be in that prelim, based on the 3 games that they played. If they get everybody on the pitch for Brannocks, they'll still fancy their chances because they're still a very talented team. And, they've the experience of knocking on the door for so long there at the intermediate level that if they get everybody together, get everybody on the pitch, fit and healthy, they can do things. But again, Brendan's they are dangerous in that they have so many players that can score. And when you have 4, 5, 6 players scoring every day you go out, it's very hard for an opposition to limit those scores, especially when you have, inter-county standard footballers like Rory Cunningham there, and Paddy Downey. He would have gone through underage development squads, and he's turned into a big man now, and he's starting to influence games. So, they really are a dangerous team as well going into the prelims.
Who'll win intermediate in one word?
Caltra. I'm going to go Caltra. I'll nail the colours to the last.
We'll hold you to that now and revisit it.
That's it.
But that's all we do have time for on this evening's show. We will have a preview show later in the week ahead of the preliminary quarterfinals, previewing all those 4 games coming up this week. But that's all we have time for tonight. Thanks a million to James for coming on.
Cheers, Paul.